Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us today because we are diving into something absolutely wild. We're going to explore that fascinating space where hardcore acoustic physics completely collides with human consciousness. We're talking the real mechanics of sound healing, breaking down exactly what the historical texts and modern clinical research are actually saying.
All right, let's just quickly hit our roadmap. We've got 1, the power frequency, 2, instruments of resonance, 3, the missing ingredient, intention, 4, becoming the hollow bone, and finally 5, the healing equation.
Okay, to kick things off, I want you to think about this quote from Dr. Stephen Halpern. Sound is a carrier wave of consciousness. The sources suggest that the sound coming out of an instrument isn't just a physical pressure wave bumping through the air. It's literally acting as a vehicle that picks up the awareness, the thoughts, and the compassion of the person making the sound and transmits it directly into the recipient's cells. It's a huge idea, and it's basically the foundation of everything we're looking at today. Moving right into Section 1, the power of frequency. Let's strip it back and just look at the physical mechanics of sound and matter. So the whole foundational principle here is resonance. In physics, resonance is just the natural vibratory rate of an object. And, absolutely everything in the universe is vibrating, right? That includes us. Every organ, every bone, every bit of tissue in your body has its own natural, healthy, resonant frequency. When part of the body loses that harmony, it basically goes out of tune, and that's what we experience as disease or discomfort. The theory is that by blasting it with the correct external resonant frequency, you can physically force that biological structure to snap back into its natural, healthy state.
Now you might be wondering, what actually happens when a powerful new frequency enters the chat? Well, this introduces a super cool phenomenon called entrainment. Essentially, the massive rhythmic vibrations of one object force a second object to sync up with it. When we introduce a dominant acoustic frequency, it physically alters our biological rhythms. It actually entrains our brainwaves, our nervous system, our heart rate, completely syncing them up to its own state of harmony.
And the craziest part? We can literally measure this in clinical settings. The sources point to a 64-channel EEG study that tracked patients getting a singing bowl massage. Impartially looking at the data, the physical pressure waves from the bowls caused a massive, reliable drop in high-frequency beta-2 and gamma brainwaves. That means the brain physically shifted away from active cognitive processing and stress, sliding right into a deep meditative state. Plus, the mean heart rate dropped significantly, and respiration rates went up just a bit as patients started taking those deeper, more relaxed breaths.
Which brings us to Section 2, instruments of resonance. Let's talk about the specific tools, technically called idiophones, that generate these physical vibrations. We've got a really interesting contrast here between two major types of singing bowls. On one side, you have ancient bell metal bronze that's mostly copper and tin. Because they're hand-hammered, there are all these tiny inconsistencies that create this incredibly warm, rich wash of complex harmonic overtones. On the flip side, you've got quartz crystal bowls. These are super modern, actually invented as a byproduct of Silicon Valley's microchip industry, if you can believe it. Since they're basically pure quartz, they produce a single, laser-clear crystalline note. So both make incredibly powerful pressure waves, but with completely different acoustic vibes. Then, of course, there's the tuning fork, which has been around since 1711. Unlike the complex sound of a bronze bowl, a tuning fork holds a pure, sustained, fundamental tone. Practitioners will literally apply these directly to acupuncture points, a practice called sonopuncture. But they also use them off the body. The sources explain they do this to locate and discharge trapped, incoherent energy in the biofield or the torsion field. Basically, that subtle energy envelope around us. The pure tone acts like a reset button for scattered energy. Okay, on to Section 3, the missing ingredient, intention. Because as cool as the physics are, high-quality instruments are honestly only half the story.
Enter the legendary formula from sound healing pioneer Jonathan Goldman. Frequency plus intent equals healing. It's a true 50-50 partnership. The physical sound wave from the idiophone is the vehicle, sure, but the practitioner's internal consciousness, their focused thought, their compassion, that is the actual payload. That's the medicine riding on the wave.
The sources emphasize that intent isn't just a nice idea, it's a literal vibrational force. And this brings us to the karmic boomerang effect. Basically, it works like this. At time 1, you initiate a thought or action, and it carries a frequency. At time 2, that vibration gets stored in the unified energy field, sometimes called the Akash, or the zero-point field. Then, at time 3, thanks to the law of reciprocal vibration, that energy bounces right back to you to restore cosmic balance. Just like positive intent can literally rearrange the molecular structure of water into beautiful shapes, negative intent doesn't just vanish. It actually rebounds and disturbs the harmony in the biofield of the person who created it. So a practitioner's internal purity is absolutely non-negotiable.
Which naturally leads us to Section 4, Becoming the Hollow Bone. This is all about the practitioner's responsibility to manage their own energy. To keep their own emotional baggage from hitching a ride on the sound wave, a practitioner has to enter what's called the hollow bone state. You have to totally set aside the ego and become completely selfless. One technique is to do a body scan, bringing consciousness into the bones to utilize their literal piezoelectric charge. By doing this, the practitioner becomes a perfectly neutral conduit, letting universal energy flow through them untainted by personal desires. The sources call this deep internal work the purification of karma, or Ditngep. It ensures they aren't blasting their own stress into the recipient's biofield.
I love this line from the sources. Energy follows intention because intention vibrates molecules. When you get into that hollow bone state, your purified intention acts like a sonic laser. Those high-quality bronze or quartz instruments just take that intention and amplify it, directing super-focused, compassionate energy right at the problem. The instrument makes the wave, but it's the practitioner's Ditngep, their purification of karma, that steers the ship.
Finally, Section 5, the healing equation. Let's pull the whole shebang together. So here is the complete mechanism from start to finish. First, your idiophones create physical pressure waves that travel through the air, the water in our cells, and our bones. Second, that 50-50 partnership kicks in. The practitioner's selfless intent encodes the wave with pure compassion. Third, this whole package of combined energy enters the biofield. Fourth, it hits the stagnant, incoherent energy and totally neutralizes it. And boom, the body and mind are free to return to homeostasis. Let's leave off with a bit of a provocative question today. If every word you say and every sound you make is truly a carrier wave for your internal state, what exactly are you broadcasting out into the world right now? It's definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining the Explainer today. Keep questioning, and we will catch you next time.